The planet Varnic 7 was quiet, cold, and full of rocks. No trees, no cities, just endless gray hills and the sound of wind. But this lonely place had one small human outpost. It was a repair base for deep space ships, and only one person worked. There Jace Carter, a young human engineer. Jace had been on the outpost for 6 months. Every day, he repaired machines, cleaned solar panels, and checked radio signals. Life was simple, but boring. He talked to no one. The stars were his only friends. One night, during a meteor storm, something strange happened. Jace was sitting in the control room when he saw a red light on the radar screen. It was moving fast and falling from the sky. "What is that?" whispered. He looked through the big window and saw a fireball crash into the hills far away. It was not a meteor. It was a ship hand. It was in trouble. Without thinking, Jace grabbed his gear and jumped into his rover. The small vehicle rolled across the rocky ground as wind and dust hit the windows. After 15 minutes, he found the crash site. The ship was broken, half buried in the dirt. Smoke rose into the sky. Jace quickly ran to the side and opened a damaged hatch inside. Lights blinked and wires hung from the walls. And then he saw her. A tall figure was lying on the floor wearing dark silver armor. Her skin was light blue, her face sharp and strong. She had long silver hair and strange markings on her arms. One of her legs was bleeding. She opened her eyes slowly and looked at him. "Human," she said weakly. Jace knelt beside her. "You're hurt. I can help." She tried to sit up, but her body shook. "I am Saraxa. A VARI. ... Don't talk," Jace said gently. "You need rest." He lifted her carefully and took her to the rover. She was heavy, but Jace didn't stop. He drove back to the outpost as fast as he could. Inside the outpost, Jace placed Saraxa on the medical bed. Machines scanned her body and gave her basic treatment. Jace used translation software to understand her language better. After some time, her breathing became calm. For 2 days, she slept. Jace checked her often, cleaned her wounds, and gave her water. He also looked at the broken ship. It had strange technology he had never seen before. On the 3rd day, Saraxa opened her eyes again. "You saved me," she said, her voice stronger. Jace smiled. "Yes, you're safe now." Saraxa sat up slowly. "My ship was attacked." "It escaped through the storm. Why were you attacked?" Jace asked. She looked at him carefully. "Because I refused a war. My people are warriors. We are trained to fight, but I wanted peace." Jace nodded. "That's hard. I understand." There was silence for a moment. Then Saraxa said, "You are alone here?" "Yes," Jace answered. "Just me. I fix things. I wait for orders." She looked around. Strange. "Your kind lives with so much noise, but here it is quiet." Jace laughed a little. "I like quiet. Sometimes." Yes. Saraxa smiled for the first time. Over the next few days, Saraxa began to recover. She walked with help and explored the outpost. She was strong and proud, but also curious. She asked many questions about Earth, about humans, and about why Jace had saved her. "You could have left me," she said one day. "Why didn't you?" Jace looked at her. "Because you needed help. That's enough for me." Then she said, "Among the Valari, saving a warrior's life is not a small thing. It is a great honor." Jace blinked. "Oh, well, I didn't do it for honor." "It does not matter," she replied. "The law is clear." "What law?" Saraxa looked into his eyes. "You saved me. Now I owe you a life. It's not just mine, but a new one. A child." Jace's mouth opened in surprise. "Wait, what?" "It is called the Legacy Oath," Saraxa explained. "When a warrior is saved, she must carry her savior's line forward. That is how our people survive. It is our oldest tradition." Jace stood still, did not know what to say. Saraxa continued, "I will not force you. This is the way." "Of my kind," Jace shook his head slowly. "Humans don't do that. We choose, we marry, we raise children with love." "I do not speak of marriage," she said calmly. "This is duty. not romance. Jace looked at her with soft eyes. Even duty needs understanding. Siraxa stared at him for a long time, as if trying to understand a new world. Later that evening, Jace stood on the roof of the outpost. He looked up at the stars. The galaxy was big, strange, and full of surprises he'd never expected to meet. An alien warrior? Or hear such a strange custom? Siraxa joined him. She looked up at the same stars. Your stars are different, she said. They're the same, Jace replied. Just seen from a new place. Siraxa nodded. Perhaps. That is how we must see each other too. Jace smiled. Maybe this is the start of something new? They stood in silence, side by side. The wind blew gently. Above them, the sky was full of stars, watching two souls from different worlds, now walking the same path. Siraxa moved slowly through the outpost, her silver boots making soft sounds on the floor. Her leg was almost healed, and her strength had returned. Jace watched her from the workshop as she examined the machines, wires and tools. You learn fast, Jace said with a smile. Siraxa turned her head. Valari warriors are trained to adapt. Knowledge is a weapon. Jace nodded. Well, here we use it more for fixing things. She walked closer to him and placed her hand on a small drone. This is not a weapon, but it can fly. It is clever. Jace laughed. Yes, but I wouldn't call it a warrior. Siraxa gave a soft grin. Not all warriors carry blades. Later that day, Jace made them a simple meal. It was not much, some heat-packed food and water, but it was enough. As they sat at the small metal table, Siraxa looked at him seriously. I have thought more about the legacy oath, she said. You must understand, I was not trying to scare you? Jace nodded. I know, but to humans, the idea is strange. Siraxa kept her eyes on him. Ain't to my people. Saving a warrior's life is a deep honor. Our blood must continue, and that means the one who saves must become part of our story. Jace leaned back in his chair. If the one who saves says no? Siraxa was quiet for a moment. Then she said the Valari do not often hear no. Refusing the oath is rare. In my history, it has happened only twice. Jace raised an eyebrow. And what happened? The savior was respected, but forgotten, she said. Their name was not added to our records. Their bloodline was not honored. For us, that is a great silence. Jace thought for a moment. So it's not about force. It's about being remembered. Yes, Siraxa said. About legacy, about building the future. Jace looked down at his hands. And what if I just wanted to help? Not for honor, just because it was the right thing. Siraxa leaned forward. Then you are stronger than many I have known. Over the next few days, Siraxa worked beside Jace. She repaired damaged panels, studied human tech, and even helped clean solar arrays. She didn't talk much, but when she did, her words were clear and full of meaning. One evening, they sat outside the outpost, watching the stars again. My people once thought the galaxy belonged only to warriors, Siraxa said. And now? Jace asked. Now? I wonder, she replied. They sat in silence for a while. The wind was soft. Comet passed across the sky. Then Siraxa said something unexpected. I built the first part of the life-packed nest. Jace turned to her. That it is a place of honor, she explained, where the oath is fulfilled, where new life begins. Jace's face showed surprise and worry. You built it already? Had to, she said. It is the next step of the oath. I cannot wait too long. My people will come. They will ask. Jace stood up. Siraxa, this isn't how humans live. We don't build a future without talking, without understanding. I am not forcing you, Siraxa said. But I must be ready. It is my duty. Jace looked at her. What about my choice? Siraxa looked away. That is what I do not understand. Why would you choose to stop a legacy? Jace's voice was calm, but strong. Because we believe. Legacy should begin with love, not just honor. The next morning, Jace received a signal. A new ship was heading toward Varnik 7. It was small, fast, and matched Valari design. "They're coming," he said. "Sooner than I expected." "Will they try to take you back?" Jace asked. "They will come for answers," she replied. "And if I have not fulfilled the oath, they may act." Jace frowned. "Act how?" "They may question your actions. Or mine. They may say I have broken my code." Jace walked across the room. "But you didn't break anything. You made your own choice." "But Valari do not change the code," she said softly. "The code changes us." That evening, Siraxa walked into the workshop where Jace was working. She held something in her hand, a silver pendant shaped like a star with 7 points. "This is the mark of the saved," she said. "It is given only once in a warrior's life." She placed it gently on the table. "I offer it to you," she said, "even if you refuse the oath." "Da!" Jace looked at the pendant. "Why?" "Because you helped me see something new," she said. "You showed me that honor without understanding is only a shadow. Shadows cannot build a future." Jace picked up the pendant. It was warm, as if alive. "Thank you," he said. Stood in silence. Two beings from different worlds, now sharing the same light. The Valari ship entered Varnaxavan's orbit early in the morning. Jace stood near the outpost's window and watched the sky. A silver light floated above the clouds, quiet but powerful. His heart beat faster. "They're here," he whispered. Walked in behind him. She wore her armor again, clean and repaired. Her silver hair was tied behind her head. Her face was calm, but her eyes held a storm. "They will land soon," she said. "And they will ask questions." "Will they try to take you?" Jace asked. Siraxa shook her head. "Not unless I break the code. But they will expect me to follow the oath." Jace looked away. "Even if I say no?" Siraxa lowered her voice. "Valari warriors do not understand the word no. In our culture, duty is everything. Choice is not often given." Jace walked over to the control panel. "Then I'll explain it to them." Siraxa placed a hand on his arm. "Be careful. They may see your kindness as weakness." An hour later, the Valari ship landed near the outpost. It was long and sharp, like a silver arrow. "Ow!" The ship opened slowly, and 3 Valari stepped out. One was a tall male with red markings on his armor. Another was a female with glowing blue eyes. The third was older, with gray skin and heavy metals across his chest. Siraxa stepped forward and bowed her head. "Commander Theron," the old warrior nodded. "Siraxa of House Victol. You survived." "I did," she said. Commander Theron looked at Jace. "And this is the human." "Yes," Siraxa said. "He saved my life." The commander studied Jace carefully. "Then the legacy oath must be completed." "You know this?" Jace stepped forward. "I know about it, yes, but I haven't agreed." The 2 younger Valari looked surprised. Commander Theron narrowed his eyes. "You refuse the honor?" "I don't mean disrespect," Jace said calmly. "But in my culture, having a child is not something we do because of law. We choose it together." Commander Theron raised his voice. "Choice is a luxury, legacy is survival." Siraxa stood between them. "Commander, please. Let me speak." Theron nodded once. "I have learned many things during my time here," Siraxa said. "The human way is different, but it is not weak. It is based on trust, not command, and I believe it is time for us to listen." The younger Valari male stepped forward. "You reject the code?" "I do not reject it," Siraxa replied. "I question it." There was silence. Even the wind seemed to stop. Inside the outpost, the Valari visitors sat around the long table. Jace served them water, though they barely touched it. Commander Theron looked at Siraxa. "Do you still wish to honor the oath?" Siraxa answered slowly. "I do, but only with understanding, not force." Theron turned to Jace. "Do you understand? The weight of what you deny?" "I do," Jace said. "But I also believe that any true bond must come from the heart, not just rules." The room remained still for a moment. Then the young female Valari, who had been silent until now, spoke. Perhaps the code is not broken. Perhaps it is growing. Everyone looked at her. The humans live with feeling. She said, "It is not our way. But maybe it should be part of it." Theron looked deep in thought. After the meeting, Siraxa and Jace walked alone outside. The sky was turning orange as the Varnak sun began to set. "You stood your ground," she said. Jace gave a soft smile. "I didn't want to insult them, but I had to be honest." Siraxa nodded. "You were." She looked at the hills around them. "When I was young, I thought strength came from armor, training, and duty. But now, I see strength in kindness." 2. Jace picked up a small rock and tossed it gently. "Your people are proud. But pride without understanding can lead to mistakes." Siraxa looked at him. "An understanding without courage can lead to silence." They both laughed a little. That night, the Volari visitors prepared to leave. Commander Theron called Siraxa one last time. "You have always been loyal," he said. "But now I see you are wise too." Siraxa bowed her head. "Thank you, Commander." Handed her a small, glowing cube. "This contains a new record. It says, 'The legacy oath must be accepted freely by both life-bearers.'" Siraxa's eyes widened. "You changed the code?" Theron nodded. "You changed us first." He looked at Jace and gave a respectful nod. Then the Volari ship lifted into the sky and disappeared into the stars. Later, Jace and Siraxa sat together, watching the night sky. "You changed your people," Jace said. Siraxa looked up. "No, you helped me see a new way. I only lit the path." Jace smiled. "So what now?" Siraxa turned to him. "Now we walk forward, not as warrior and savior, but as friends." Jace nodded. "If something more happens," she smiled. "Softly, then, it will be our choice." The stars above them shined gently, as if watching two worlds slowly becoming one. Days passed after the Volari ship left Varnaxavan. The outpost became quiet again. But something had changed. Siraxa no longer saw this place as a prison or a hiding spot. It had become something else now, a place where ideas grew every morning. Siraxa joined Jace in the workshop. They worked side by side repairing broken panels, updating the power core, and learning from each other. Siraxa was still a warrior, but she had learned to enjoy building instead of breaking. She studied how humans created things not for war, but for peace. Jace said one morning while fixing a scanner on Earth, "Many people build things just to help others. Not for money, not for power, just to make life better." Siraxa looked at the scanner and then at Jace. "That is not the Volari way, but it makes sense. Helping others makes you stronger too." Jace smiled. "That's the human way." One afternoon, Siraxa sat in the communication room watching videos Jace had shared with her. They were simple human recordings. Families playing, children laughing, parents reading bedtime stories. She leaned forward, watching closely. The children were small, loud, and messy, but they were full of joy. The parents looked tired but happy. Siraxa didn't blink as she watched a mother hold her baby close, singing a soft song. When Jace came in, she turned to him. "They are not like Volari children." "No," Jace said. "Human children are emotional, loud. They ask too many questions." Siraxa looked thoughtful, and yet they are loved deeply. Nodded. "Yes. That's why raising a child is more than just duty. It's something that people choose." Together, Siraxa sat quietly for a while. Then she asked, "Do you think a Volari child could live like that? With laughter? With stories?" Jace smiled gently. "If the parents understand each other? Yes, I think so." Later that evening, Siraxa walked to the place she had called her life-packed nest. It was a small, quiet corner inside her old ship. She had started building it long ago, before she truly understood humans. Now, it looked strange to her, cold, metallic, and empty of feeling. Jace walked in behind her. "Haven't seen this room in a while," he said. Siraxa touched the wall slowly. "I thought this was the right way. But now, I think I built this out of fear. Fear of breaking my code. Fear of dishonor." Looked around. It doesn't look like a place where a child should grow. No, Siraxa said. Not anymore. Took a deep breath, then gently closed the door. I will not use this room again. The next day, Siraxa asked Jace to take her to the top of the western hill. It was a short ride in the rover. From there, they could see the entire valley, the outpost, the crash site, and the endless gray hills. Siraxa stood silently, her armor shining in the weak sunlight. My people think duty is everything, she said. We are trained to fight, trained to obey, but not trained to feel. Jace looked at her. Feelings aren't weakness. They help us understand each other. Siraxa looked at him. And what if understanding changes everything? Maybe it needed to change, Jace said softly. She turned to him. You gave me more than your help, Jace. You gave me your truth. That is a gift I cannot return, only carry forward. That evening, Siraxa surprised Jace with something new. I want to show you something, she said, handing him a small device. Jace turned it on. A hologram appeared. It showed a Valaris-style nursery, but this time it was filled with color, light, and softness. There were pictures of stars, books of stories, and music playing gently in the background. This is my new design, she said. A child's room, made with both of our ways. Jace looked at her. It's beautiful. It's a start, Siraxa said. Not a command, just a vision. Jace nodded slowly. You're learning fast. I had a good teacher, she said with a smile that night. They sat together near the outpost, under the stars. Siraxa looked up. When I first came here, I thought humans were soft, weak. But now I see your strength is quiet. It lives in your hope. Jace looked at her. I thought Valari were only warriors. But now I see you have hearts too. You just hide them behind armor. They both laughed softly. Sirax's voice became calm. Jace, do you think a time will come when Valari and humans raise families together? Not for duty, but for love. Jace looked at the stars. I think that time is already beginning. Before going to sleep, Jace wrote a short message to Earth Command. The Valari warrior Siraxa remains at the outpost. You're learning from each other. Not just technology, but how to see life in new ways. She is no longer just a guest. Is a partner in peace. As he sent the message, he felt something warm inside him, feeling that maybe, just maybe, they were building something greater than a friendship. They were building understanding. They were building a future. The next few days were quiet on Varnex 7. The wind blew gently across the hills, and the machines inside the outpost hummed like always. But something inside both Jace and Siraxa had changed. Their connection was now deeper. They spoke less about duty and more about dreams, about what kind of life could be made when two people from different worlds truly understood each other. But peace doesn't always last forever. One morning, the radar showed another incoming ship. Jace checked the signal. It was not from Earth. It was from the Valari High Council. Siraxa stood beside him, calm but alert. If the council comes, she said, it means they are not sure. They want to see if I have followed the code. Jace looked at her. What? If they don't agree with what you've done? Siraxa took a deep breath. Then I will have to stand alone. The Valari ship arrived within the hour. It was larger than the first one and shaped like a wing. Figures stepped out, all wearing long robes instead of armor. Their faces were marked with gold paint, which meant they were council elders. Siraxa stepped forward and bowed. The tallest elder, Elder Kohler, spoke first. Siraxa of House Victal, we have come to learn the truth. Have you honored the legacy? Oath. Siraxa stood straight. No, Elder, I have not completed the oath. A silence fell over the place. Kohler's eyes narrowed. Do you deny your duty? No, Siraxa said. I have not denied. I have chosen a different path. Another elder, Elder Mayan, stepped forward. We heard you change the old law. You added choice. Siraxa nodded. Yes. The code must grow. If it becomes a chain, it will break us. Jace stood beside her now. I didn't want to disrespect your ways. I only wanted to be free to choose. That's what we believe. Elder Kohler turned to Jace. And do you choose now to honor the oath? Jace looked at Siraxa, then back at the elders. I choose to honor our bond, and I choose to build something with her, but not because of rules. It's because of respect. The elders spoke in whispers for a while. Then they asked to enter the outpost. Inside, Siraxa showed them her new design, the new nursery. The videos of human families and the new words added to the Valari code. Legacy must come from shared. Will, not from old fear. Elder Mayen touched the hologram gently. You have given the code a soul. Elder Kohler looked at Jace. You are not Valari, but your thoughts have shaped our future. Why? Jace smiled. Because sometimes one honest voice can reach farther than any law. Later that evening, the council called a public link. Across the galaxy, Valari warriors, leaders, and even young ones could watch. Siraxa stood before the camera, her voice clear and strong. I was saved by a human who asked for nothing. But in him I found everything: kindness, freedom, and the courage to choose. I still carry our traditions with pride. But now, I carry something else too. Hope. She paused and continued. From this day, no Valari shall be forced to fulfill the legacy oath. It must be chosen by both. Only then will it be true. The message ended. The stars continued to shine over Varnek 7, but now, many eyes in space were watching with new thoughts in their hearts. Back at the outpost, the mood was calm. The elders prepared to leave. Elder Mayen gave Siraxa a silver scroll. This is the first copy of the updated law. Keep it safe. You began something greater than yourself. Siraxa held the scroll with care. I did not begin it alone. Elder Kohler gave Jace a respectful nod. You have given strength to our people not with weapons, but with wisdom. Jace smiled. Sometimes quiet ideas are the strongest. The Valari ship lifted into the sky, leaving behind a world that now held a new kind of future. That night, Jace and Siraxa walked outside again. The wind was cool, and the stars above seemed brighter. You changed everything, Jace said. No, Siraxa replied softly. We did. They stood at the top of the same hill, where they had once talked about duty and fear. Now they stood as equals, not warrior and savior, but partners in change. Jace looked at her. If you ever decide to have a child one day, Siraxa turned to him. Yes. Let it be because we both want it, he said. Not because of an old promise, she smiled. That is the human way. Jace smiled back. Maybe now it's the Valari way too. Somewhere deep in space, Valari children were hearing the story of Siraxa and Jace for the first time. They didn't hear it as a tale of war, but as a story of courage, kindness, and two people who chose peace over pride, and that choice changed a world. The stars above Varnek 7 were peaceful. The sky was clear, and the soft sound of the wind touched the hills gently. The old silence of the planet still remained, but now it felt different. It felt like something new had begun. Inside the outpost, Jace Carter sat at his desk, writing his final report to Earth Command. His words were slow and thoughtful. We came here to fix machines, but in this place, something much greater was repaired. An ancient tradition was given a new path. A warrior was given a choice. Two very different people built a future together. He smiled as he finished. Then he saved the message and turned to look out the window. Outside, Siraxa was planting a small device into the soil. It was a seed pod, not for food, but for learning. It would grow into a Valari memory tree, a living recorder of knowledge. It would hold the story of what happened on Varnek 7, so that no one would forget. When she came back inside, her silver armor was dusty, but her eyes were bright. It is done, she said. The story will live here, even if we leave. Jace nodded a living history. Over the next few weeks, the outpost changed. What once looked like a cold, lonely station now felt more like a home. Siraxa helped build new rooms, one for research, one for shared meals, and even a small room filled with both Earth and Valari books. Jace called it the Room of Two Worlds. Evening, Siraxa stood in that room reading a children's storybook. She turned the pages slowly. These stories are simple, she said, but they hold something deep. Jace smiled. That's the beauty of them. Stories are how we pass our hearts to the next generation. She looked at him with soft eyes. Then this place will need more stories. One day a message arrived from the Valari homeworld. It was from a group of young Valari scholars. They had watched Syrax's broadcast and wanted to visit Varnic 7 to learn more about Earth's ideas of family, freedom, and choice. Jace read the message aloud, then looked at Syraxa. It's happening. They're listening. Syraxa nodded. Da. Next generation is ready to grow in a new way. Will you teach them? Jace asked. Not alone, Syraxa replied. We will teach them together. Soon after, the first Valari students arrived. They were polite, curious, and respectful. Some had never met a human before. Others had only heard stories of Earth. Jace showed them how he repaired machines. Syraxa taught them about both the old warrior ways and the new path of choice. The outpost became a place of learning, a bridge between two worlds. One day, a young Valari girl asked, Is it true you refused the legacy oath? Syraxa smiled. I did not refuse. I rewrote it with help. The girl tilted her head. Why? Because sometimes the old ways must make room for new truth, Syraxa said. That is how we grow. Months passed. Earth Command also sent their first team scientists, teachers, and explorers. They brought gifts from Earth, books, music, small plants, and even a painting of Jace and Syraxa standing under the stars. The outpost now had a name. It was called Haven Between Stars. The name was written in both Earth's English and the Valari language on a large silver plate near the entrance. People came from far away to see the place where a warrior and a human had chosen peace over law, heart over honor, and understanding over command. One night, Jace and Syraxa sat outside the outpost. The stars above were quiet as always, but their light felt warmer now. Jace looked at her. Do you think everything changed because we met? Syraxa thought for a moment. No, I think everything changed because we listened. The sky, there are still warriors on Valari who believe in the old ways, and some humans who still fear us. But the story we started, it's growing. Jace nodded. It's all we can do. Plant something good and let it grow. Syraxa turned to him. I do not speak of the legacy oath anymore. But if one day I choose to raise a child, I hope it will be with someone who chooses it with me. Jace smiled. That's the only way I'd want it. Before they returned to their quarters, Syraxa handed Jace a new pendant. It had the symbol of Earth and Valari together, a star with two hearts at the center. This is for you, she said. A mark not of battle, but of belief. Jace took it with care. I'll wear it with pride. And so, the story that began with a rescue on a lonely world became a seed for something bigger. It was not about war, not about victory. It was about two people who chose to understand each other. A warrior who found her voice, a human who stood by his heart, and a future rewritten one choice at a time.